Thank you, Dr. Ruxana. It's always a pleasure to interact with faculty members and to share learning. And this is an opportunity for learning for all of us. So before I begin, I would like to ask you, how many of you are familiar with rubrics? Okay. Oh, so everyone is familiar. All right. So what I am going to do is, if we can go to the second slide, please. Yeah. So I need some volunteers. We have the volunteer for judges already. I roped them in right at the beginning. I need 3 volunteers for performance. Can anyone just raise their hands? 3 people. Come on, guys. Okay, Ambreen, Homa, Dr. Ehtisham. Okay. Yes. So I want you to read your the instructions given on each one. And I don't know which one has gone to whom. So for participant 3, who's participant 3? Participant 3. Okay. So we invite the judges to please take their seats here. Yes, they can bring the chai. Who can stop judges? No, it's not, but it's okay. Okay. All right. So the contest, this is a clapping contest. Okay. And all 3 participants will come one by one and do as they are instructed. People who are online, I wish that you were here, but you can see this proceeding. And then we'll, at the end of this competition and this activity, we'll explain what it was all about. Okay? So let's begin. Participant 1. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Participant 1.
I'm reading. Just do it. All right. Participant 2 needs to be focused on what's happening here, okay?
I'm sorry, Musarrat. We have seemed to be facing an internet issue. The internet is very, very slow, and that is the response that we are getting, that we are not able to hear what's happening in the room now. Musarrat, we can't hear you. I think this happened last time also. It's basically, no, they are not on mute. She has got a mic. It shows on mute, but her mic should work. That's how it's supposed to work.
Dr. Oksana, we are having an activity right now. As soon as we are
Yeah.
done with this activity, then I'll explain what the activity was about. So
Yeah,
that's
the problem is, Musarrat, during the activity, we could not hear anything. So what happened is that all we were seeing were visuals on the screen, but no voice. So there's some problem with either internet or something that triggers it off at your end. So please see that it does not have an issue again.
okay. Okay. So can we have feedback for the third participant? Yes.
So I believe, I think there was, it was better than the last one, almost to the perfection. Why? Because you were taking care of the rhythm as well. It started off high and then it got to the intermediate level and then to the lower. So it was to the perfection.
Yeah, you did better than the other two, and you were very rhythmatic. You knew what you were doing. So that's really good.
Your clap was a good rhythm, better than the previous one.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, judges. Okay, so what happened just now? I would like anyone to first tell us, what do you think happened just now with this clapping contest? Can you raise your hand, please?
Can you hear me?
Use the mic because they.
Okay, is that okay now?
Yeah.
So I thought, this is Mariam from psychology department. I think there was no clear rubric given to begin with. That's my perception. I don't know what they have. The other thing is that it was not constructive feedback. Like you didn't do this, but what were you actually supposed to do? This is I'm thinking.
And what about the third one? The third participant?
It's my general feedback on the whole activity process.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So basically what was happening was the three participants came with instructions where the first participant had no idea, no clue as to what they were just supposed to clap. While
Musarrat, your voice disappeared again. I know it's the internet issue. We apologize. We've been facing this since morning. Musarrat, Gohar,
did
please
have a proper criteria which they were given beforehand. So what do you think? Did you see an improvement because of the rubric? What is your idea? When the third participant came and she followed the rubric, what happened to the performance as compared to the first one? Can anyone share their आप बताइए जी. It was rhythmic.
Yes, it was rhythmic and in an order.
Yeah. And you could see that she had warmed up her palms.
Yep.
And so because one of the criteria was beating not with the hollow palm, but with the middle of the palm. So basically, what we'll have the second slide. So what are rubrics? Okay. Rubrics these are instructional tools and they act as guides for teachers. And how do they do that? Because what teachers are doing all the time, they are teaching and then they are assessing. So whatever assessment that you create, needs to tell you how much learning has happened. That is for the teacher. For the students, it has to be their understanding of what learning will they be embarking on, whatever course it is, whatever you are teaching. You can create rubrics of what you want to assess. Okay, so rubrics can work as working guides, and you can have informative feedback for students to work through. So you can divide up your task, whatever it is. It's an essay, you can divide it into different, as a structure, organization, expression. So it could be up to you. So we'll go through the 5 or 6 stages of making or creating a rubric. Okay? So, and how it helps students learning as they can identify their strengths and they can see what they have not been able to achieve. If you as a teacher have provided a rubric beforehand and you share it beforehand, the kind of impact it makes on learning. And if you've not given them any criteria and you're just assessing them, okay? Now, for this, I'll just give an example. Can people online now hear us clearly? Okay, good. So let's first see what I've just said, purpose of assessment. What is the purpose of assessment? It is to check students' learning. So we've just talked about it. We set objectives and outcomes. Of course, every one of us does that. And then we always want our students to enhance. And what we do, and these rubrics create, and give us this opportunity of iterative practices, which is that you can go back to your rubric, change it, improve it, change the criteria, and then serve it to students. So it doesn't have, it's not set in stone. It's not something which is, you know, this is how I'm going to do it and there's no other way. You can assess rubrics in different ways. And you can go back to your rubric, you can change, improve. Okay, so you modifying strategies to enhance learning all the time. Just go through this. This is repetition. So when we are talking about assessment, we are talking about transparency. We are talking about accountability, and we are talking about equal and equitable. Either equal, equitable to shayad hum kabhi bhi nahi kar sakenge, but a fair chance to everyone, all the students, to perform at the best of their ability. ठीक है? So it, again, another aspect to rubric making is that it eases the mundane task of grading. Now, when you set up criteria and you know what exactly you're asking your students to do, you are making your lives easier. Why? Because when marking, your students have already kept in mind those expectations that you have set for them. Right? So, and most of the teachers, they do, when they start making rubrics, their practice is to share the rubric beforehand. What we've done just now, because what Writing Center does is we do presentations on different essays. So right now there is this reflection essay that a teacher has asked us to get a workshop for her 3 sections. That's a political science teacher. And this is a reflection essay. So what we've done, my tutors have created a PowerPoint presentation where they've set a criteria. They're going to give that presentation to students who will be writing an essay, a reflective essay on the 3 seminars that they attended, political science seminars, and they will follow those rubrics. Do you think that most of them will be able to achieve a better grade? Okay, why? They would know exactly what to and what top class, because they'll know exactly what is expected of them. So clear guide for the students on how they will be graded and varies from subject to subject and project to project. So that's the creative part where teachers can be creative and create their own rubrics. And I'll show you at the end some of the rubrics that I've created myself for my course. Now, how many of you are familiar with the types of rubrics? That there are analytic rubrics, there are holistic rubrics, and there are developmental rubrics. Anyone? Okay. All right. That's great. So, and we'll start with developmental rubrics, because developmental rubrics, we do not really need to go there. They are when you are assessing a skill. So when you are assessing a skill, then what you do is you create a developmental rubric where you start with basic understanding, maybe of a language understanding, and then you go to intermediate understanding of maybe written or spoken, whatever you want to assess. And the third one is advanced. So you see a skill development at different stages, and then you assess. So that's developmental rubric where you are assessing skills only. Okay. But when we are talking about holistic rubrics, these are the ones that you should begin with, because they're easier to do, although they are difficult to assess. Why? Because when you are creating a rubric, a holistic rubric, then on the left-hand side, you've got the criteria. So in a holistic rubric, you'll have just one criteria. So for example, if you want to assess organization, the aspect of organization in your essays, okay? Just the aspect of organization, then what you will do is you will then create 3 or 5. So it has to be either 3 or 5, cannot be 2, cannot be 1. So you'll say an organization was excellent, it was good, or it was unsatisfactory, or it was satisfactory. Maybe you do not want to give unsatisfactory. That is again entirely up to you, how you arrange your performance levels. Okay? Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that is, how can we identify the quality of the rubric that we have aligned for one set of assessment? Let's say, yes, we know that whether it's going to be analytic, holistic, or developmental rubric, but how can we evaluate if it's actually like a quality rubric we have set for our assessment?
Okay, good question. So there are sites like Ruby Star. There are sites available on Google, and I will share some of those at the end of this, and you'll have access to this presentation as well. So it comes with practice. And it comes with your understanding as a teacher about so you as a teacher would know what looks best. Okay, an essay that is amazing for me will have organization, will have content, will have expression, vocabulary and expression, will have grammar and language. Okay? Now, in content, what I will see is, and this is my understanding, and I will share it with the students. So in the content, I may have, everyone can have their own different ways of doing it. But my understanding, if I'm giving a story to write, or a non-fiction or a fiction story, I will see content, may the idea, relevance to the topic. I will see content, may novelty of the idea and the topic. Okay. Organization, may the structure of the story. Is it cohesive? Is it progressing in logical order? It is, does it have paragraphs? Does it have, so all of that is in my mind. See, anything that that requires planning. So rubrics require planning. And I believe personally on 5 Ps, prior planning prevents poor performance. Khatam, that's end. Okay, so if you plan your rubrics, so you know what you expect from your students. So you will know what looks the best. What is your expectation? The essay has to have an organized, structured paragraphs. It has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It needs to flow either chronologically or priority wise or whatever. Okay. And then vocabulary and expression. Has the child used relexicalization, meaning has he repeated the same word again, or has he used synonyms and different contextually embedded vocabulary? Is his expression unique, original? Does he use literary devices to support his arguments? And so on and so forth. So, yeah, again, a criteria. So that is your criteria. You are the teacher. You are going to plan. You're going to make the rubric. And you will, with practice, perfect it. Okay. So as you get the tasks, you will see if you've missed out something. For the next task, you will add that in. That's the beauty of a rubric, right? So in holistic rubric, there is just one aspect that you're looking at and a detailed performance descriptor. So we have the criteria, we have the performance levels, we have the performance descriptors, and all of this works under the goal. What is your learning goal? Okay, so I will give you a task later on about, creating your own rubric, and I will do it so that you do it for the subject that you are teaching. You can do it individually. However, you need to understand that when you're making a holistic rubric, all of what 5 aspects I just talked about will be within that one performance descriptor. Okay, so we'll have essay organization, or we have essay ke andar vocabulary and expression used, and then you will write create a single performance descriptor, which will be excellent, then good, and then unsatisfactory or satisfactory. Can anyone tell me if I say writes the essay shows excellent organization of paragraphs and thoughts and ideas which follow a logical order in a cohesive and coherent manner. Okay. What will be good? How will we write a performance descriptor which is good if this is the excellent? Yes.
Ma'am, yeah, this is Huma Hassan from English Department, college side. So I believe the criteria you have given in the statement there, you have talked about that there should be proper paragraphing. Then you have talked about that the content should be cohesive, means one thing leading to another. It should be well knit. So before, like we teach to the students that before ending your first paragraph, you should give a clue of the second paragraph. So this is how the statement itself is giving the rubric there, that these are the things you need for a good organized essay.
Okay, but good may or excellent may,
yes.
what is the difference? How are you going to make that difference?
that you have to organize it, then it has to be, there has to be cohesion, it has to be well knit,
What
it
to,
has to be coherent.
okay. So
Yes.
thank you for that. So see, what Huma has just said, that is the criteria. That doesn't change. What changes is one is excellent, well knit, has superb cohesion. In the good, performance descriptor, what we can say is it is usually good. However, sometimes it falls where cohesion. So the cohesion is usually not, the thoughts are not usually cohesively linked. Okay. Sometimes, usually. So these are the words that are going to define excellent from good. And then from good to satisfactory would be very rarely, adequately, somewhat. Okay. So how you use these words, these adverbs are going to define the difference in the level of performance. And what we have been taught is that never undermine effort. So you cannot, people do write that there was no cohesion, there was no organization. So maybe there is no cohesion, there is no organization, but what you can phrase it differently. Lacks, it's missing. It does not clearly link one thought with the other. So you see, what you are doing is you are also giving benefit to the effort, because effort needs to be appreciated. You cannot demotivate students all the time.
Participation, who Ms. Nurul Huda has responded that good may be a work closer to excellent but may lack a few aspects. And Ms. Tazeen Bukhari says that ideas are fluent with appropriate punctuations embedded to enhance the meaning and develop coherence.
Okay.
This is what they
So develop coherence in most part of the essay. So you use these adverbs to create a difference between, thank you very much, Tazeen and Nurul Huda. Good understanding. Okay. So then how many of you are clear about the difference in the performance descriptors and performance levels? Please raise your hands if you are. कोई थोड़ी सी confusion दूर हुई है? Okay. All right. So now we come to, so this is holistic. At the moment, this is the beginner basic level of rubric workshop. You need to just understand the holistic rubric creation or creating a holistic rubric. But what teachers go on to do is analytical rubrics jo aap banate hain. I think that is a very important bit, because then teachers also know what are the different areas that are need to be segregated. Okay, so let's see.
We have lost you again.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah, thank you.
I went quiet for a while.
Okay.
Okay, so see, now this one, this is about a, and what I want you to do is look at this rubric and tell me what can be the goal or the objective of this particular rubric. So we've got the criteria, we've got marks, we've got excellent, good, need improvement, which is the performance level. We've got the performance descriptors. So read this and you can consult with each other and let us share with us what will be the goal for such a rubric. Yes, Wale has an answer to this.
question.
Yeah.
Which strategy do you think is better in creating a rubric, that we find a pre-made or pre-developed rubric and change it according to our specifications, or should we create rubrics like from scratch? Because I feel personally that from scratch it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. Otherwise, if you find a pre-built or pre-developed rubric, you can change it according to your.
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. Yes, both strategies work, but I feel that as you grow in your experience, I'll share with you the two rubrics that I have created for two tasks in my course that I'm teaching. So I tend to make my own rubrics now. In the beginning, I used to adapt and change, modify. That's also fine. There's no harm in it. As long as you know what is the goal, as long as you know if the criteria fits, as long as you know the performance levels are all right for you, and as long as the performance descriptors show the expectation or demonstrate the expectation that, of what you want from that assignment. Yes. Yes, Asfa.
Hello.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think that this rubric, the goal of this rubric is to write a cohesive and coherent research paper.
Mhm.
And it covers all the aspects that, where should you begin, how should you develop it, and how is it that you're going to conclude it. So I think this is the goal of this rubric.
Okay. Does everyone agree? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. All right. And see how, if you give this to the students beforehand, what do you think is going to happen? Okay. One is transparency.
And secondly, yes, we are removing that ambiguity of not knowing what is to be written.
Mhm.
And we are going to save ourselves a lot of pages of irrelevant checking also.
Super. Very good. Anyone else? See if there is any response at the chat. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Ji.
Yeah. So you are basically giving the pathway to the student basically to, write everything that you want them to write. So in a sense that you are helping the student also to, follow a proper guideline pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
They should be fine to the expectations
Yes.
a teacher has put in.
Ji.
So that's another.
Exactly. So there are, so many different things that you can do just by creating a really smart rubric beforehand. So prior planning will help you be, a way, not check all the extra details that you are not required to check. Okay. Yes.
Ma'am Rubab Durrani says that students won't be lost and they will have guidelines to follow.
So they will, you're providing them a map and they have to just follow the directions. And what can be one disadvantage of this? It's a huge disadvantage if you think of it as a disadvantage. Okay. So it could be limiting their creativity and natural way of writing. And it could also be, what else? One more thing. There can be several, but one more. That they can then, sort of ask you, challenge you, that I have done this, I have done this, I have done this. Why have you given me these marks? So they can challenge your marking. Yes. If the rubric is not made really, really well. Gee.
I feel that's an advantage for the student as well as for the instructor in the long run.
Thank you very much. I wanted to hear that. I'm just saying that these are things that we need to consider. These are
Yes.
points for consideration.
Right.
Okay. So disadvantage, I just said, because this is some people think that challenging their authority is not even permitted. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That when you think, if I think that, hinders my growth as an instructor.
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm not saying that is something that we should be doing. I'm just saying that there are people who do not like to be challenged. And this gives students the right to challenge. Okay. Because you have given them a tool that this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. And the students who are really smart will follow the rubric. And then if you do not do your bit well or competently, then they're going to ask you, challenge you, because you've given that ammunition in their hands.
Dr. Musarat, I have a different point of view, because once we're setting a rubric, don't you think we're actually eliminating the question of challenge? Because I know that what I specifically need from my students for the assessment. So I need these things, of course, like creativity, it's sky is the limit for students. But setting the rubric, don't you think it actually, gives them a pathway, that this is the pathway? Okay, there are two routes to go about it, but this is the route I want you to
I'm saying that is, yeah, exactly.
Don't you think that actually negates the challenge of, negates the question of challenge, that the students come, I have written this, but you have not given me marks, and I can
See,
show the rubric.
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but realistic on ground reality is that people have challenged and teachers have become offended. I know that. Trust me on this. I have had I am an IB instructor. Okay. I've done my MYP, my PYP, which is the middle years program, and then I've got training on that. And they work only on rubrics. And all the time, and I'm talking in schools, I'm not going to refer to the university experience, though I have some examples here as well, that students and even parents come and challenge.
So how to go about that then?
Okay. So that means that the teachers need to be smarter than the kids.
Well, to my mind, if you spend considerable amount of time, effort, and energy developing a rubric, I think then you can maybe, offset the concerns that you have discussed. And what you said earlier about giving your students a rubric beforehand, to my mind, you kind of set it's a commitment between you and your students. Well, this is the criteria against which I will judge your work.
Assess.
Yeah. Assess. Maybe assess.
Yeah.
Assess is a better word.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So, and then there is a third thing also, which I have done, and I've also written a paper on it. So in my classroom, what I did was we co-created a rubric for a group presentation. I asked the students to co-create. So what do you think should be assessed? And they came up with the rubric, and we then had a peer assessment of those rubrics. And then we finalized the rubric, and then I assessed them, and there were students who were assessing them. So it was a co-assessment, peer assessment and teacher assessment together. And it was a fantastic experience. So you can ask your students, give them put the monkey on the person's shoulder. Put the monkey on the other person's shoulder. That does magic, because then you stay out of it. Okay. The burden is on the student. Whoever created the rubric, tell them now, you created it. Now you have to honor it. Ji.
Ma'am, Aisha Atik says that effective rubric, in fact, minimizes the challenge from students. Dr. Daniel says that that's right. Students will still challenge you, but with a clear rubric, it's easier to give constructive and specific response to such challenges. Miss Alina Karim says that, yeah, co-assessment sounds like a great rubric, and I'm going to use one.
Okay. All right. So all of that, very, very true, that yes, rubrics are things that you, it's like, putting yourself on in the battlefield sometimes for novice teachers. I'm talking about people who are beginners. But then if you are a competent teacher, you are a seasoned teacher, you won't have qualms about it. Okay, you will not shy away from creating a rubric, being challenged by students, because what I am saying is that a strong rubric, you will not be challenged. Okay, but there are times when you never know what students or what other people can come up with. So it gives you a sort of a reason, an excuse, an alibi to stand by what you are saying, because it's there, it's penned down, it's in writing. Okay, ये ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने कहा था मैम, आपने तो ये कहा था, नहीं मैम आपने तो ये कहा था. No, it's all there. Okay, I said this and it's in writing. So if your work is excellent, I cannot take those marks away from you. But if it's not, then sorry. Ji.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Mansa.
My name is Dr. Zubair. I'm from School of Life Sciences.
Mhm.
I would like to share my experience on that. So I gave one of my class an assignment and also give them the rubrics,
Mhm.
right? And after the deadline, I was surprised that all the assignments were almost in perfect shape. So I just got happy. At the same time, also I was worried that how did this happen? So, so what I did, then I have a doubt in my mind that there is something wrong in this particular assignment. So I just then have a time slot and conducted the Viva about that particular assignment. And then I came to know that even the 60% of the students were not even aware of that I have even given them a rubrics.
Okay. So how did they?
So they copy pasted it. So this is also in addition to those disadvantages that you and other our respectable colleagues have told, that sometimes, rather often, students are very smart. So they will use these types of boundaries to their advantage.
Okay. So here, what I would say is that it is the task setting for this particular incident that you've quoted. I think the task needs to be set in such a way. Not all tasks can be really objective, so or subjective, but one or two tasks the teacher sets which are subjective, which need personal responses. Those are the ones where you really know your child knows something, which is conceptual understanding. Checking for conceptual understanding and personalizing the task or making a subjective task. For example, you give an experience, you gave a lecture or on a series of topics, and then you ask the students to write a personal reflective essay on the experience. Okay. And what they write will tell you how much they have understood. They cannot copy and they cannot paste, because it is about individual experience. It is about conceptual understanding. So what happens with something like this, and most of the science students who come to the writing center, I feel that they know the content, but their conceptual understanding is really, really lacking.
Can I interject, madam?
Ji.
Can I interject?
Ji, please.
My suggestion would simply be that in the criteria, with respect to Dr. Zubair's comment, just add plagiarism similarity index test, and then you give 3, 2, 1, and whatever, and you will catch the student immediately there and then. There is no problem. And this can be amended, this rubric with the similarity index from the Turnitin. It's very easy. I have done that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bajaj. Second thing I was going to say was the same, that there is always Turnitin, there is always a proper way to check if there is been plagiarism or not. Yes.
How would we catch that plagiarism? Because Turnitin wouldn't know.
See, for plagiarism and Turnitin, every third word, okay, has to be paraphrased. If it is not, and that's not easy to do. Whatever they use, Ramisha, कहीं ना कहीं हम फिर भी चीते टीचर्स ही हैं. जी. जी.
That mark. All of them they copied it. So actually they got out of plagiarism.
I think you need to reflect on the task setting and on the rubric that you made. And I think things will be resolved in the next time. Of course, first time when you use things, it does give you a heartbreak. All right. But with practice, you make things perfect. Gee.
For plagiarism and and it is like 87% with 75%. You can see in the assignment there are paragraphs which have been copied and pasted. They ask them that this assignment is not accepted.
Yeah.
And that would send the rules maybe in the rubric already so that they know that plagiarism is not allowed at all. Some students, they even don't go for plagiarism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teach them in university 100, but they are not aware.
Yeah, it's something which is quite ambiguous to them. Yes, Swale.
One second, please. As we are about to finish, I am going to start the polling for online participants, and for in-person participants, I've shared the sheet. Please.
Ma'am, I have a question that although a detailed rubric is very good, for giving expectations and requirements from students, but don't you think that when it comes to giving feedback, it might become problematic for the teachers, because the more detailed the rubric is, the more detailed the feedback needs to be. And it takes a lot of time as well, especially if you're dealing with large classes.
I think it's the opposite. The more detailed the rubric, the less feedback or the shorter feedback that you will have to give, because rubric already has feedback. It already has the criteria that this is something that you've not missed. This is something you've missed. All right. So towards the end, what I want you people to do is think of a goal or an outcome that you would like to assess. And because we don't have time here, but on your own, try and create a rubric. And if you like, share it with me on the Writing Center's email. I'll go through it. And I wanted to just show you meri wali jo slide when it tumhe bheja tha na email. I just want, before you leave, to show you one rubric or two rubrics that I have created for 2 tasks. And you'll see that it's such a creative engagement. If you'll start loving making rubrics, okay? G.
Just a short comment about the rubric. So it seems like it's a suggestion that we shouldn't be relying completely on it's a quantitative procedure. It seems to me a quantitative procedures, like you are quantifying the sections of a document you have given to your students, right? So now, in order to eliminate the options of plagiarism as mentioned and any other thing, there comes the instructor's own self. You have to judge the quality.
So this is qualitative.
So,
you can make it quantitative, you can make it qualitative. It's up to the teacher.
Yes, but
that is the beauty, and it is a formative assessment tool as well. So see, there are 2 types of.
What I mean is that I forgot the name of Dr. Saab, but he's quite right. Students can plagiarize, can copy, right? But there's you being an instructor who can judge the quality and whether they have used any other softwares in order to paraphrase it or something like that.
What's your name?
Rovidat.
Ruvidat?
From CPP, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
It's Dr. Ruvidat from CPPG.
Okay. So Dr. Ruvidat, thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. So see, teacher discretion is all encompassing. That's the umbrella under which we are working. And we are not suggesting that you make rubrics for everything that you are doing in class. Rubrics you can create for some assessments that you are doing. For some you cannot, just don't.
Quite so. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
End पे जाना है, इस document के end पे जाना है जरा बहुत. Okay, so thank you very much for this time that you were here. It was great. I just want to show you one rubric. ये पीछे जाना, पीछे. और पीछे. और. This one. ये वाला. ये जो नीचे आ रहा है, final exam. ये थोड़ा सा ऊपर करना और थोड़ा सा और ऊपर. Yeah. So see, this is a task, a final, this is my course that I'm teaching, Advanced Creative Writing. For that, I've developed this rubric, okay? So the criteria, and if you read the task, I showed them a TED Talk, and then I asked them to come up with a creative solution for a theme or a problem that bothers them and people around them all the time, or a meaningful special message that they wish to convey. Okay. The criteria is creativity and originality of the idea or problem special message. And I've named it the architect, the builder, and the mason. Right? So the architect is the most accomplished. Builder is somewhat, and mason is not there yet. Okay, so the idea is creative and original and identifies a real problem from everyday life. Practical value of the idea, problem, special message. The idea, problem, special message has practical value which can be applied in day-to-day situations without much difficulty. आगे चलें. फिर process है. Go ahead. Catchy introduction, logical connection, step-by-step explanation, realistic, creative, and meaningful solutions. The process from troubleshooting to problem solving is introduced effectively, and step-by-step logical connections are made to provide realistic, meaningful, and a creative solution. So you see, it's up to you. You are the teacher, you are the authority, you are the person who's driving that truck or the bus or the airplane or the ship. So it is the reins in your hand. And once you start doing this, you will fall in love with making rubrics because it makes life easy. The Lazy Teacher एक किताब है, वो पढ़िएगा जरूर. I've forgotten the name of the writer. The Lazy Teacher में वो कहता ये है कि क्लास में टीचर मक्खियां उड़ा रहा होता है, बट बच्चे काम कर रहे होते हैं. ठीक है. उससे पहले, क्लास से पहले जो काम होना होता है वो टीचर ने करना होता है, मर के खप के जो भी करके. दैट टीचर इज गोइंग टू क्रिएट अ लेसन दैट इज वेयर द स्टूडेंट्स विल बी वर्किंग, द टीचर विल बी easy. Okay, so this is for people who really want to be creative and to take their students from the content to concepts. So content teaching से बेहतर conceptual understanding जब आप देंगे तो फिर ये आपकी बड़ी help करेगा. And it's not quantitative. You don't have to be. It can be, but it doesn't have to be quantitative. ठीक है? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Musarat. That was a great one. And I see that our faculty are exceptionally well prepared. And I'm happy with the questions and the comments and the learning that came through. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you in our next session, which is on a Wednesday. So I see Furqan and a few others have joined. I have still need to, Daniel, you better stay put for advanced rubrics. I have half a mind to nail you for that. How are you, Mustafa? I see a lot of new names as well. So all of you are welcome. And I know, see a lot of older ones. So delighted to see you all. Mustafa, तुम्हारी learning complete नहीं हो रही है ना? You need to learn and learn. And the same goes for Adil and Daniel. You are diehards and you want to, keep on improving. And we are very proud to have you with us. I see a lot of other names. Asim Nadeem, Sidra, and of course Furqan, Shahbaz, Naomi, Sayyida Khairul Bariya, Abiya, Tabiur Rahman, chemistry department. Say I see a lot of chemistry department, but I cannot get to the name. Bakar, Noshin, Hola Tahir, so Aksa. So welcome to you all, and see you next time, hopefully. Okay, dears. Bye bye.
वो chat GMT chat डॉक्टर डैनियल बंद कर दें तो वो कहते थे कि शुरू कर रहे हैं